You're dialed in to Fantasy Jam. Presented by NerdJamTV.com. And now, here's your hosts, Matt Wallen and Billy Taylor.
I'm a saint, I'm a soul. Feel it in my bones, feel it in my bones. I'm a saint, I'm a saint, I'm a soul. Feel it in my bones, feel it in my toes. I'm a saint, I'm a saint, I'm a soul.
Saint-like.
I'm sick and tired.
Welcome back to the Fantasy Jam 2021 preview. We're really excited about draft day. We're drafting in 2 fantasy leagues on the 28th. Billy and I are in 2 leagues. We don't just talk about fantasy football, we also play it. And I'm really excited about the return to the salary cap format for the Austin Shitty Limits League.
Love salary cap. I think it's better than Snake all day long.
All day.
Snake is, boring and predictable, really. Auction, you can make it your own. There's so many different strategies available, so it's a little more intimidating. I get that, and there's really this chance you could come. The very first one I ever did, I just screwed it up terribly. I came out with no RB1. I was running it, and we were doing it. I was trying to track everybody's auction numbers, and I kind of forgot. Oh wait, I need to nominate people and draft people. But there's just so many ways that you can attack it. I love the different styles of team generation that you can come up with. I've seen guys stay out of the first 40 picks and then just go on a run and really just clean up and get all these guys at good values, and you can kind of dominate the auction by having more money towards the middle of the draft. So there's a lot of cool strategies with auction.
So the first year I did auction was 2018. It was a 2018 season, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I got very lucky. I think it was the first salary cap for a lot of people, in that league at least, and so everyone was kind of trying to figure it out, and I was able to come away with Zeke for 54. I got DeAndre Hopkins for pretty cheap, and I was of course that was the year I got James Conner and Nick Chubb off the waiver wires, so it helped fill out the team for sure. One of the better drafts I've ever had, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the strategy I want to go with this year. That year I was I'm gonna get an RB1 and I'm gonna look for value. And I was able to do that. I found some guys that I was like, wow, DeAndre Hopkins for 40. I was like, I could do that. So I snagged him up, and it's just, I dare say unmockable. Unmockable.
Yeah, it is. It's too tough to predict.
Yep.
I was going to ask you, how do you change your strategy? Mid draft do you change gears sometimes depending on how things are unfolding? How do you kind of think on the fly during an auction draft?
Well, I've got guys that I target, guys that I have in mind. We have our bargain bin section that's coming up, so we'll talk about some guys where if you went McCaffrey, Cook, you could scoop up some of these bargain bin guys and maybe be able to put together a good team. I think there's something to be said for having 2 top 5 running backs. You're going to blow your budget. It's going to be a boring draft. But there's also the tradability of those marquee players where you could say, okay, well, Christian McCaffrey's good. He's not injured. And I'm going to trade away Dalvin Cook and get maybe an RB2 and a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1, depending on what you're able to put together trade-wise. And I love trading. I know you do as well. I think we're both pretty good at that negotiation skill. So I think something like that would have a lot of value. That having been said, you don't want to come away with 2 really good players and a bunch of scrubs. I don't want an Elijah Moore as my wide receiver 1, or a Rondell Moore or something like that. It's worth mentioning that you're probably going to overpay for running backs. Probably quarterbacks as well,
sure.
At least the main quarterbacks, but you're probably going to overpay a little bit for those running backs, with the possible exception of those guys like Christian McCaffrey or Dalvin Cook. You might get them at face value, something that they're supposed to be at. We've seen in the past Le'Veon Bell go for $70+, and it was the season he didn't even play. So you're putting a lot of risk in there if you try to get 2 RB1s, and then you have nothing left. But that is a viable strategy that a lot of people use. It's called the the scrubs or the studs and scrubs method. There's also the wait and see approach and find good value. In that kind of situation, I think you're probably going to overpay for RB2s, RB3s. So if you're going to overpay by $10 to $15 for a guy like an Aaron Jones, why not just get a Zeke? Why not just get a Derrick Henry? You know, so that's one of those things you just have to feel out. And that's what makes it so, I dare say, dangerous, because you could definitely mess up your team very quickly if you're not careful, if you're not paying attention. So a couple of strategies that I really like. You've got a good one here. Nominate players you don't want at positions you need. You want to elaborate just a little bit on that? I've got a good one too.
I think if you see that there's 3 teams left that don't have a starting quarterback, and you are one of them, nominate one of the guys you're not, as high on, and force, someone else to kind of go after them and spin something on them. It's kind of the awareness of what other teams have compared to what you need is very important. I don't see a situation ever where it's really helpful for you to nominate a player you want. You know what I mean? Because you want your players to go as late as possible. You would prefer them to just, for somehow, some way, make it down into where people have already spent a majority of their money. And so you'll have kind of the upper hand on getting those guys. But eventually, the guys you're looking at are probably going to get nominated, and you got to be ready for it. But I think there's a lot of strategy to forcing other teams to bid on players that you might think their ADP is a little too high.
Yeah, and I think we don't know our draft order yet, and I don't know when I'm going to be picking, but I know the first person I'm going to nominate, and that's going to be Michael Thomas. Because I feel like somebody might overpay for Michael Thomas. Yeah, he might help you out in the last half of the season. But if you're paying $10 for Michael Thomas, maybe you don't know he's hurt. Maybe you don't know how badly he's hurt. Maybe you just go for the name. And we do have some people in our league that, while I do think it's very competitive, usually around draft time, there are those people that didn't do their homework, and they're going to be like, Michael Thomas, I'd spend $40 on Michael Thomas. And then we all laugh at them. And we do have an IR slot or two, so you could just stash him all season. But his value right now, according to ESPN, is, I think, $5. I would maybe pay $3.
I was going to say, $5 is not out of, depending on what you have on your roster. I'd spend $5. I wouldn't spend $40. And that's where he was, he was going for 30 to 40, I'm sure, before that, like last year and years before. Really, last year he probably went for 50. But yeah, I mean, that's what's tricky about auction is like you really are putting all your eggs in a basket if you go after, spend a lot of money. If you spend a fourth of your budget on a guy, it's like he's got to return value for you. Either that or you got to find someone in free agency. I know in the 2019 auction draft that we had, that was Lamar's year where he was set to break out and was the MVP. Eventually became the MVP. We got in a bidding war for him. Not sure if you remember this, but we were the only two really left messing with him. And I think you ended up getting him for like $10 or $11.
Yep.
And I just looked back on it and been like, I just should have spent that extra $1. I mean, look what the difference would have been if I would have spent that extra $1. I would have had the MVP on my team and got him for $12. So there's a lot to be said for that. If you're really believe in a guy, if you think this is the guy that's going to be the linchpin kind of guy for you, you spend the extra $1 or $2. Go after them. It'll be tough at the time. You'll think, man, it's like I've already upped it 2 or 3 times. I don't know if I can keep going. I'm gonna run out of money. But if you can hit on those types of players, that's what kind of gets you the advantage in an auction draft. And knowing the $1 players, if you look across, because everybody's going to eventually be nominated $1 players. If you can find a few guys that you think, like we're looking at here in the bargain bin guys, if you can find a couple of guys that are $1 players that you like, and those end up working out, because if you nominate them for $1, somebody has to pay $2.
Absolutely.
Towards the end.
Yep.
And if it gets to the point where they might not even have $2, so you're going to get that guy almost as you drafted them. So that's important too towards the end of the draft to be aware of who. You don't want to nominate people you don't want at that point. We should mention that because you could actually end up with them. So that's really more of an early round strategy, trying to get other people to spend money.
So you mentioned previous drafts. I actually pulled up the 2018 draft.
Yeah, how much did you spend on Lamar? I'd love to know.
So I've got 2018 pulled up right now. We'll look at Lamar. Guess how much I spent for Patrick Mahomes? And this was his breakout year.
That's his MVP. Yeah, I'd say 55. Well, no. Oh my God! Oh, you got him the year that? Okay, I thought it was the next year.
I paid $1. I paid $2 for Dak.
Wow.
So that just goes to show, save your money
A lot
for
of dollar
QBs.
players. Yeah.
Yeah, save your money for QBs. Patrick Mahomes was getting a lot of hype. He was the last player I selected. Obviously, he was amazing. I got Aaron Jones for $1, Kenyon Drake for 21. That didn't play out too well, but Marshawn Lynch for 11, Michael Thomas I got for 38, DeAndre Hopkins I got for 45, and Ezekiel 8 for 61. And that was but yeah, that was Patrick Mahomes $1.
That's a steal.
Yeah, I can't.
Of all steals.
I can't think of anyone this year that would be that productive that would maybe cost $1 or $2, except for maybe like a Kirk Cousins, you know.
Well, I was gonna say it could be the rookies. You know, I don't know how much. I don't know how much people are gonna spend on Fields and Lance. I mean, it's a one quarterback league. If you've got Josh Allen, I don't know how much are you really gonna invest in that second QB. It's probably only gonna be $1 or $2. Of course, those guys have a lot of hype behind them, but they're also not starting. So if it's not a dynasty league, maybe you don't, spend more than $1 on them. But those would be the only guys I could think of that would deliver. I mean, Mahomes is not a fair example just because that situation was, just once in a lifetime. So you probably won't see that again. But, there could be $1 value in taking Fields because there's just no chance Dalton's going to start more than 3 or 4 games. I don't think he's going to start more than this game against the Rams. He's going to start that game, probably get pulled or get hurt in that game is really what I think. You can't start Fields week 1, but I mean, I would be surprised if he's not available to start after that. So maybe someone like that, you get him for $1 or $2. I don't want to give away too much of what I'm thinking, but I mean, this is for the fans. This is for hopefully help somebody, and that could be one of those guys. Of course, you need to get a normal quarterback. Spend at least 10-12 on a normal guy. Yeah. You never know what's going to happen with these guys, but obviously the potential is worth $1.
Yeah, absolutely, and I've got a very interesting decision to make in regards to Justin Fields, and we'll talk about that when we get to keepers and sleepers. But I've got a tough decision to make in that regard.
He's got to be a consideration, I think. There, you've got Mahomes and no other quarterback, so quarterback's got to be something you look at. I mean, there's some juicy. I don't know if we're going to go through who's all available.
Oh, we will.
But there's some juicy players available. Yeah. I mean, the first round in the keeper league is always just because it's all the top rookies plus everyone that got dropped from the top teams that weren't able to be kept that normally would have been kept. So there's going to be players that are in top 20 and 30 ADP available, what is the 7th round basically. So
and Allen Robinson, I'm looking at you. Kyle Pitts, I'm looking at you. Najee Harris, I'm looking at you. It's going to be an interesting draft. And
J.K. Dobbins is available. Josh Jacobs is available.
Notably,
Godwin is available.
So it doesn't wrap around like a normal snake, which I found out the other day. It's
sorry. That's important.
No, man, it's not your fault.
You have the second pick in every round.
Yes, yeah. So that's juicy, and
you have a chance to rebuild.
My team needs it, so I like that you do that because it does make it a more competitive league,
more NFL style, and that was kind of the whole thinking with the league was we wanted to make it more like we're the GMs. This is draft. The draft is super important. It's a way to restock your team, and what we've seen over the first 7 years of the keeper league is that. The teams that are drafting 1, 2, and 3 are able that very next year to compete. So it's been a lot of fun to see teams go from worst to first. We had a team draft first overall. They took Barkley and they won the next year. So you can definitely go from worst to first in the sleepers to keepers league.
A lot of parity. So let's go back to the salary cap strats. spend the extra dollar, nominate positions that maybe you think would be overvalued, like the quarterback position. I'm not going to be taking a quarterback early, but I'll definitely nominate some quarterbacks. I'll nominate a Travis Kelce. Those guys that I know will blow out a budget very quickly. And if I can get like 10 of those guys out there, if we're all doing it, nobody's getting the McCaffreys out there, and it's like a second round pick, then it's going to be very interesting. That's one of the reasons it's not mockable. Like if you've never done it before, definitely try out a mock draft or two. The first year we did it, I definitely the way that it helped me more than anything was understanding the values and saying, wow, like DeAndre Hopkins is worth more than that, so I'm going to save a few dollars there. It'll help you get more acquainted with the players that are valued, more than $20, I would say, because it can kind of. I don't want to break it down just as, well, if it's 50, then it's a first round. If it's 40, then it's a second. But that's kind of how it plays out in a lot of cases.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit there.
And it's so tempting. You want like almost every player that gets nominated. You're like, oh, I could use that guy for this price. And so. You do have to kind of pick and choose your spots and just know what you already have, and just be patient. That's kind of my next piece of advice. Just take your time. If you like a guy, get in there and try to, maybe move around. But if it gets too high, just wait for the next one. You don't want to, like, if you spend too much in the first couple rounds, it's going to really limit what you can do later, because you're going to see guys that come up and go, man, I would love to have them at that price, and then you're not able to do it because you've kind of already spent too much of your budget. Which, like you said, if you do the Dalvin Cook, Henry combo, something like that, you're going to have the best running backs in the league. You're going to have an advantage, but you are going to have to hit on some bargain guys at the end, which you can probably give us a few of those.
Yeah, absolutely. So why do I start with the Jets?
It happens every year, right?
It happens every year. So I definitely think it's an improved offense under Zach Wilson's leadership. They drafted Elijah Moore. They've got Michael Carter. They have veteran Corey Davis, who I really love. I think it's going to be improved. I don't necessarily want to draft Michael Carter. Tevin Coleman's actually number one on the depth chart there, which
really?
Tevin Coleman might be one of our bargain guys as well. I believe Michael Carter is actually going above Tevin Coleman. And I get it, down the stretch, especially keeper dynasty kind of situation, yeah, maybe Michael Carter would be worth a flyer. Corey Davis, however, is going to be special in this offense, and he's already proven to be Zach Wilson's go-to guy. I think Corey Davis, he's the 45th overall wide receiver, 105 overall. You could probably get a Corey Davis for $1 or $2.
Yeah, it's $1 range, yeah.
Yep.
$1 or $2.
Yeah, and I would actually pay that extra $1 for Corey Davis, knowing that he's going to get so many looks in the red zone, not seeing a lot of starters in the preseason action, but a lot of encouraging signs.
Yeah, you're looking for more like, can they connect? I mean,
Exactly.
Obviously they're not going to go against, elite talent or anything, and, you got to temper your expectations. But, yeah, you got to see, can they complete the routes that they're practicing in training camp? And so far, Zach Wilson looks like he's been on time. Mm-hmm. I didn't expect him to be a bust, but, I think he's exceeded what my expectations were in the preseason. Yes, it's the preseason. Yes, it's inferior competition, but you're seeing what you want to see as far as throws coming out on time, making good decisions, not turning the ball over. So I've moved Zach up quite a bit on my rankings. I mean, I think there's, if you're looking at taking a Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, someone like that, I like that better than, taking a Fitz or Cam or someone like that, because there's just no telling.
Yep. I agree with you 100%. And the cool thing about Corey Davis is he's being utilized on third downs. He's the go-to guy. There was a play where it was a 24-yard bullet helped set up a field goal in the opening drive. It was on third down. They connected on the final play of the first quarter. Wilson was flushed from the pocket, made an off-platform throw. Another 20-plus yard gain. So I think Corey Davis is going to be that guy where maybe you stream him, maybe he's a flex play, but you kind of like a Robbie Anderson, and Robbie Anderson has had some good seasons where he was 15 plus, at the end of the year. So I really like Corey Davis as one of those bargain bin guys. How do you feel about Elijah Moore as a bargain bin?
Really like his potential as well. This does kind of all come back to Zach Wilson. So if Zach Wilson's effective, it would make Elijah Moore viable, make Chris Herndon viable. It kind of raise everybody's stocks there. So, for everything I've read and heard on Elijah is that he's one of the best players in all of camp. He's outperforming some of the veterans. So I think he's going to have a pretty significant role in this offense. I definitely see him as a solid wide receiver 2 in on the field, and probably like a wide receiver 3 or 4, maybe a low end flex in fantasy.
I would agree with that.
As his ceiling. I mean, I'm not sure how much more
Matchup play.
Yeah, matchup play, bye week kind of play. Definitely worth rostering, especially if you're in a dynasty league. He could be one of those candidates to have that positive progression year 2. So yeah, I mean, I think rookies with this type of potential, you gotta kind of you gotta roll the dice a few times. You're not going to hit on every single one, but Elijah Moore is the kind of guy that into the draft, be smart to add as like you said, as a bargain bin guy. Couldn't be more worth $1. ADP is wide receiver 57. I mean, you're in a 10-man league. That's everyone with 6 receivers basically. So I think that you're looking pretty safe at taking him in that range at $1 and kind of seeing what you get. I think Marquez Callaway, Brian Edwards of the Raiders, Darnell Mooney, all those guys are in the 50 to 60 ADP range for $1, and all present better potential than their draft status.
Mike Davis, he's the starting running back for the Falcons. They don't have anyone behind him. How do you feel about Mike Davis?
This is one of those ones. It's a great question. It could go so many different ways. I think that there's some value there. Obviously, the volume is going to dictate a little bit of value.
He's going 77 overall, RB 23. Starting running back.
I have to I'm going to actually fade him. I don't like him at 23.
Okay.
He did fill in pretty nice last year, and he does have the opportunity that you would hope for. But I worry, first of all, about how that team's balance is going to be. I do kind of see Matt Ryan turning into more of like kind of like Ben Roethlisberger's been the last few years, where really it's a lot of drop back and rely on or shotgun or just 5 wide Matt Ryan making good decisions and kind of running the offense through Matt Ryan, and he's kind of struggled the last couple of years. So I know adding Pitts and the wide receiver core is good with Gage and Ridley, so I feel fine about the receiving.
And Hayden Hurst, I'm going to throw him out there. I know everyone's high on Pitts, but I love me some Hayden Hurst. Not a bad player at all.
I just feel like there's not going to be a focus on Mike Davis. There's not going to be this intent to get him rolling. But he can catch the ball a little bit out of the backfield, and he's going to be their goal line back. So there's some value for sure. I kind of am going against the grain on his ADP. I like him maybe more around the 30 range. 23 to me. Let me look at these ADPs. There's some good players, in this range. J.K. Dobbins he's 15, so that's a little higher. But okay, like Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, Kareem Hunt, Robinson's in there. Those guys, even Chase Edmonds, I don't know.
You would take Chase Edmonds over Mike Davis.
I kind of like Chase Edmonds a little better than Mike Davis. I like the potential.
So it's the classic Marion Barber syndrome, I believe, is what we're going to see with Chase Edmonds, where when Julius Jones was the starting running back for the Cowboys, Marion Barber was the guy who spelled him and looked great when he did it. He was fresh. And then they gave him the reins, and he was okay. He wasn't great. Marion the Barbarian, he wasn't the Barbarian anymore because he was getting more work. I think Chase Edmonds is going to be that guy. And I think James Conner is hugely undervalued. Now, would I take Chase Edmonds over James Conner? Probably. Chase Edmonds is listed as the starter on the depth chart.
Would you take him over Mike Davis?
No.
Mike Davis over Chase.
I've got 2 words for you.
I'll take one Barkley.
Honestly, first month of the season, I think Mike Davis is going to outshine Saquon. And we should board bet.
Yeah, it could be. I'll give you some odds even on that one.
2 words for you in regards to Mike Davis. Arthur Smith.
Too damn lethargic. Let's look at the ball. 5 in the huddle with the quarterback, and let's go. Pay attention. We got 700 people here to help you. Know the personnel going in the next play. Have 5 ready. Hammer it. Come off the ball and throttle somebody. Next play. Wasting time.
Depending on their ADP, is draftable. I would take him a little bit later. I think he might be getting a little overdrafted for where I like him.
I like the fact that we got some devil's advocate on that one. So you guys make your own decisions. Mike Davis, maybe he is polarizing. Who knows? Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. We already mentioned Jerry Jeudy. I also love Cortland Sutton this year. I do too. It's going to be a good offense. And you kind of mentioned this earlier. The schedule's favorable. Very favorable. There are 2 teams that have really good schedules, at least we think. You know, that's always one of those things you have to take with a grain of salt every year. But I think the Dolphins and I think the Broncos have 2 very cake schedules, especially the Broncos towards the end of the season. You already mentioned Sony Michel. Where would you draft Sony Michel? Let's say like redraft Snake. Like a flyer. Like
running back 4.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Running back 4 or 5. You know, I don't think 3 is a little too high. I think your third running back needs to be somebody you can flex in and play on bye week. So, you know, a guy really, because I'm always partial to running back, so I'm going to take 3 running backs in the first 6 rounds, probably more than likely. So I'd say after 6 or 7, it's safe to start looking at Michelle.
So here's a guy I put on here twice on accident, and I'm curious to get your thoughts. Philip Lindsay.
I would literally tell everybody, don't draft a single Texan, because there's no way you're going to regret it.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to like look back, man, I should have snagged Brandon Cooks right there, you know? I just don't think there's any possible
Chris Conley, no.
I was going to pick universe him. Where you're like, well, if I would have just taken Kiki Kuti, I would have won this year.
Yeah.
So to me, I just think just avoid that situation. I don't think there's ever going to be situation where your team is going to benefit really from that. I don't know. I just don't see it. Like I said, if Philip Lindsay was there by himself, and almost really Deshaun Watson's almost the most draftable guy on the Texans. To be real with you,
That's a good point.
At least if you take Watson, there's some potential if he comes back that he'll be Deshaun Watson, and then everything will be a little more normal for that team fantasy wise. But I don't know, man. I've seen other analysts predict them going 0-17, and I really believe that they don't have it in them to beat a single NFL team.
Yeah, I think the Lions and I think the Texans. I think the Lions are going to be pretty bad this year.
Target AFC South players, because Jacksonville is bad. They were 1-15 last year.
Yep.
Houston's the worst team in the league. I just feel like, Jonathan Taylor, any players on the Titans and Colts to me have an advantage because they're getting 2 games against basically the 2 worst teams in the league.
Yeah, I will say, though, the defense looked good for the Texans, but if you have a bad offense, it's probably not going to matter.
They got a couple players on defense, but, man, it's a bad situation. And I don't know if you're familiar with kind of the ownership GM dynamic that's going on there, but the McNair kid took over the team, and he doesn't really have any experience running an NFL team. He hired Jack Easterby, who's a guy that, doesn't really have any business being a GM in the league, and he's this the whole situation to me is toxic. Of course, they've got the whole Deshaun Watson thing.
They'll be the worst team in the league.
Looming over the whole franchise, so it's kind of just like really poisonous to me. So fantasy-wise, to me, it smells and looks like poison. So I say don't touch.
I agree with everything you just said. So are there any other bargain bin guys that you can think of off the top of your head or in the notes that you want to throw some love to?
Darnell Mooney is a guy I'd like to give some love to, just because I think he's in that category of the second-year guy that could really excel. He's flashed plenty of times last year, so he's already proven he can beat NFL corners. Justin Fields takes that job, and I feel like Mooney's got some potential there to really be a steal. ADP wide receiver 53, basically totally free. We talked about Marquez Callaway. Brian Edwards on the Raiders. I don't know a whole lot about Brian Edwards. I know, there was a lot of hype about him last year. He really didn't do anything, but he's been their best receiver in camp from everything I've seen, and he's poised to be the top target, really taking the Nelson Aguilar role over, because Ruggs, hopefully Ruggs works out, but Ruggs is really more of a slot, stretch the field kind of guy. He's going to use his speed to his advantage. Brian Edwards is more of a complete receiver, so that's a guy that not probably a lot of people are looking at, but Carr's a very capable quarterback. Brian Edwards could be a guy that benefits from that. And then Zach Ertz is a guy that Zach Ertz is a very curious case this year, because it's not like past his prime. He's not, he's not ineffective anymore. I mean, everything that went on with them last year kind of led him to not really be noticeable last year, but he's still in the same role, same team, same situation. Goddard, I feel like, only helps Ertz's situation. So I feel like Ertz is going at the absolute end of tight end spectrum, and I think he's still a decent. I mean, just 2 years ago, he was rated 4th or 5th tight end in the league. Had lots of big games. I just think that he's still a guy that you should consider, especially if you have a 2 tight end league, or you went with a strategy where you're just going to take, last pick, you're going to take a value-based kind of guy, who I would have like Irv Smith, Ertz, and Higbee as the top guys there as far as bargain bin
Higbee
tight
for sure.
ends.
Yeah, absolutely. I would throw Sam Darnold in the mix, because I feel like
Yeah,
Sam Darnold's that guy you might be able to get for $1 or $2. It doesn't sound like he's had a great camp. Good offensive line.
He's got Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he's gonna
McCaffrey.
just get him the ball.
Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, DJ Moore. It's not
DJ
a bad
Moore.
Set of weapons.
Yep.
So yeah,
Matt
I
Rule.
like Darnold. Darnold's gonna be better than he was last year. So who knows? I'm not sure if he's gonna get into QB2 range, but he could. But definitely gonna be in a better situation, have better results than last year.
Yeah,
Still a
absolutely.
good player. I mean, definitely.
Anyone else really off the top of my head? Maybe like a Byron Pringle.
I love Pringle and Hardman.
Yep.
If you get them for $1 or $2, I think that you got to take that chance, because they could be huge.
Yep.
I've got some trash bin guys I'll go through real quick.
Let's do it.
That just based on their ADP, Kenny Golladay still battling injuries right now.
Get his ass out the fucking door.
Daniel Jones threw 11 touchdowns last year. I mean, really, it's hard to say that Galladay's going to come in and produce. I mean, he's a good player. I'm not saying that. Injury prone, and he's in a situation where he's not necessarily the lead dog. A lot of options there. So at wide receiver 24, Golladay is not really someone I'm touching there. Raheem Mostert at running back 25.
Get his ass out the fucking door.
Also someone I'm very afraid of. Of course, he's got breakaway speed. He's a great player when he's healthy, but again, too many question marks, too much competition at RB 25. Jamar Chase is going wide receiver 25.
Yep.
Get his ass out the fucking door.
Don't get me wrong. I like Jamar Chase. I think dynasty-wise and future-wise, probably a guy that could be well worth it. But wide receiver 25, when I like Boyd and Higgins better. So that's one I'm not really into. DJ Chark is wide receiver 33.
Get his ass out the fucking door.
Not for me. I like Marvin Jones better. I don't really like that passing offense that much anyway. And then speaking of that, I have Lawrence here as a guy that at QB 14, I just see there's going to be a little bit of time needed to get Lawrence ready to be, one of these guys that's super reliable in fantasy. I mean, at QB2, it's okay. It's not a huge stretch, but I just think at QB 14, like I talked about with Kirk Cousins and some other guys, there's just better options at QB 14.
Get his ass out the fucking door.
So those are my guys that I felt like, to me, I would at their 80. Of course, if it drops, if everybody feels the same and you're getting them 2, 3, 4 rounds later, yeah, give it a shot, because they're all players that have done something. But at the current ADPs, I think they're overvalued.
Yeah, and I think the major reason people value Trevor Lawrence so highly is because they want him to do something with his legs. We have to see him do it at the NFL level first. I think it'll be there. I think he'll scramble around, but the guys he's playing against are faster than the ones he played against in college. They're more physical. I don't know. I need to see some Trevor Lawrence before I believe it. He's got good weapons there. I love James Robinson. I think that'll take some pressure off of Trevor Lawrence a little bit. I don't know what to expect from Urban Meyer as a coach, and I don't think that I've seen anything impressive so far. So I just need more information. That's
another factor to me that's very huge. I don't think he's got.
He signed Tim Tebow.
I know. I mean, I just don't know if this is the right fit and situation for him. Yep. I don't know if he's cut out for the NFL. Mm-hmm. He doesn't seem to be into it. Every press conference I've seen of him, he seems like he's bored or dejected.
I spent a lot of time this year on the salary cap, understand roster management.
I don't know how much you can read into that, but I just think for Lawrence especially, it's going to take some time. Yeah. And a dynasty league, yeah, perfectly. I mean, QB14 is fine in dynasty, but in a redraft league, you're counting on him right away this year. No way for me at QB14.
Do you think he agreed to be an NFL head coach just to sign Tim Tebow and give him another shot? Like, do you think that was the goal? Just like, well, you know what? Like, I don't even want to do this, but I got to do it for Tim.
Yeah, it feels like that a little bit. I know he's got some strong Tim Tebow loyalties. Yeah. But, I respect Tim Tebow for trying to make an NFL team at tight end. I love me some Tebow. One of the toughest positions in the whole universe to play. He won me a
championship one year.
Did he? Nice.
Yeah, the 2011 season.
Nice. Yeah, he was decent there for a little bit, for a few games on Denver, at least fantasy wise, he could get you some points. But I just I'm kind of out on the Jacksonville situation, except for Robinson, of course. I like him at his ADP, but Marvin Jones too. But I just I gotta kind of pump the brakes on Lawrence being a solid RB or a solid QB2. I don't see that being the case this year.
Let's talk about some keeper strats. Yeah, I know you got some good ones, and you are infinitely more seasoned. This is my first keeper league ever, which I'm really excited about. So you still get a little snake, but you like, I've got some good, solid players that I've built around. I've got some Deontay Johnson, Keeper Cup.
Keeper Cup,
I love that. That was good. Alvin Kamara, I've got Mahomes. I need a quarterback. Should I take let's say Trevor Lawrence is still available? Pick number 2.
At 2? Yeah.
Do you think I should take him?
I mean, so some of my strategies I put in here, about the keeper league, things I've learned is that you gotta think about the future, but you can't, project all the way 5 years from now. There's just no telling what landscapes are going to look like 5 years from now. So I think for Lawrence, he's a guy that I could see in the second, third year making a lot of strides. Maybe if he progresses like Josh Allen, absolutely would be worth the first or second pick in the redraft. Or in the keeper league draft. So, yeah, I mean, if you feel like he's going to have that type of progression, absolutely he's worth it. I think he's got the potential and the talent to do it. It's just the situation's not the best, and from what we've seen so far, he's had some flashes, but it looks like he's going to have a lot of pressure in his face all day. It's like it's just the entire offense is going to kind of have some, hurdles to get over before they can kind of start being an elite or even close to elite type of offense. So I think any of these rookies that, if you consider this the top player at their position, is totally worth taking in the first round of the keeper league. So Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, Najee Harris.
Najee Harris is a big one. Yep.
Any of those 3 quarterbacks, depending on how you feel about, when and where. I don't think you should worry. I mean, if you take Trey Lance, you're not worried about him starting the first couple of games. It's an investment. You're waiting for him to, take over and see what that turns into. So I think any of those guys are fine. But then there's guys like Josh Jacobs, J.K. Dobbins,
Brandon
Robinson,
Ayuk, Robbie Anderson.
Yeah. Those are guys that Chris Godwin. Are going to be solid contributors right away. There's no question marks there. So those guys are
Adam Thielen is available.
Number 10 receiver last year is available.
Allen Robinson, Juju.
Yeah.
Like, I love how I kept Deontay Johnson because I kind of had to. I didn't really have a choice. But Juju's out there, So
and Claypool's out there.
Cortland Sutton, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson. Yeah, so it's going to be a fun draft. I'm really looking forward to that. I love when I text you like some opinion that I have in football and you don't say anything because I know you're just being polite and you completely disagree with me. So I was like, man, I was like, Billy, Kyle Pitts should be taken number 1 overall in every keeper draft. And silence, pure crickets. Tell me why I shouldn't do that.
I don't know about it. Just kind of depends on your situation. If you've got we keep 6, so if you keep 2, 2, and 2, you got 2 receivers, 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs. Kyle Pitts is a great pick there because you're gonna start him. So, Kyle Pitts is just very much an enigma, right? There's never been a tight end with his grade and pedigree come out in the draft, so it's hard to gauge if he's going to be fantasy dominant like he was in college. You think if he can do some of the same things he did in college, yeah, he's going to be up there with like the Kelseys and stuff. But it's really hard to project that. I like the situation decently. I mean, Matt Ryan is a good quarterback, and I'm imagining they're gonna try to match Pitts up with some corners and try to get him in situations where he can win as far as like jump balls and just being physical. He's 6'5", so have him go up against a 5'10" corner. Kyle Pitts should win that because he's got the speed too. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they use him. I would love to get him. I'm 5. I would love for him to fall to me. So so I guess what that tells you is that anyone in front of me would be perfectly understandable for them to take him. So like I said, if they're the top of their position as a rookie going into the keeper league draft, it's very, unless you already have something super solid there, that's very well worth taking. Like if I had, the only tight ends kept were the big 3, Waller, Kittle, and Kelsey.
Yep.
If I'm not one of those teams, I think Pitts has got to be a consideration in the first round, no matter where you're at in the first round.
My team is so bad, I almost kept Dallas Goedert. Like he was, like I had him selected at one point, and I was like,
he's got Myles Gaskin, Deontay Johnson, Keeper Cup, Joe Mixon, Kamara, and Mahomes. That's a pretty decent little foundation. I think it's not as bad as some situations. People who've taken over teams in this league have come into worse situations and literally had to make trades. Someone who had Peterson took over a team. That's the only player they had, and Peterson was still Peterson at the time. So they traded him for like 3 players or something and ended up making him a little better. So at least you don't have to kind of go outside of your own team, and you got the second pick in every round. So the mocks that I've done, you always end up with a really solid wide receiver, and then you get one of those rookies, whichever one you kind of like there. So I think you're in a pretty good position, especially having 3 running backs, because Gaskins is a good player. He's a startable player, and then Mixon and Kamara is a definitely strong running back duo. So
yeah, and I think we're both down a little bit on Alvin Kamara this year, which for a lot of reasons, but he's still top 5. We haven't mentioned him.
He
much
finished number 1.
Yeah,
last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So you ended up keeping Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Devontae Adams, AJ Brown, and Kareem Hunt. What were your thoughts behind that? Like, who were some of the guys you gave up?
Well, so I had Cam Akers. That was the plan all along. I sat on Akers all year last year. I picked him up at a great time, and so I felt like a genius. I was gonna steal him and start and keep him, but of course that didn't work out. So I ended up, I really like to keep 3 running backs. So I had to choose between Damian Harris, Mike Davis. I also had DJ Moore available to me, and I kind of thought about Logan Thomas too. So those were kind of the guys I was looking at, but in the end I ended up trading my 4th round pick to a team that wasn't. I had asked him if Kareem Hunt was available, and he was like, yeah, I'm not keeping him. He's not really gonna he's not gonna make the cut on the keepers. So I offered him a 4th round. I moved him up and moved me down to get Hunt, and then I kept him. So for him it was free money really, because he wasn't going to keep him anyway, and that allowed him to move up in the draft. And then I felt like Hunt was better than Davis and Harris, just because I like his receiving upside, and then of course if Chubb gets hurt, Kareem Hunt becomes a top 10 guy. So 6th keeper was kind of weak this year, but and Jalen Hurts is also very much a dice roll, very much of an unknown commodity. So we'll have to see how that works out. But I feel good about Jalen Hurts as long as I can pair him up with another quarterback that's productive. So obviously quarterback is going to be a need for me in the draft, and then I got to get a tight end because it's like 4 years in a row here where I haven't found a good tight end. So I'm going to take another couple dart throws and hopefully find one this year.
And that's why I hate to go back to Kyle Pitts, but I'm gonna.
Yeah.
If he is what he could be, and you have him every year of his entire career, that would if you have Travis Kelce, you think about five keepers. You don't think about six keepers. You think about five because he's just locked in forever. If you have that kind of value with a player like Kyle Pitts, who's just, if he is Travis Kelce or possibly better than Travis Kelce, then you're going to be solid, and that's value you can't get anywhere else. So I think I'm leaning towards Kyle Pitts at 2. It's possible he's off the board number 1 overall. I think it'll probably be a quarterback or Najee Harris. I hate the thought of giving up a Najee Harris for like a tight end who traditionally, if Kyle Pitts isn't special, we know Najee Harris will
think about Najee would be your 4th running back.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes you, really strong at running back.
Well, and I don't love Gaskin. I like Gaskin a lot. He had that one good preseason game, thank God. But I wasn't really sure if I was even going to keep him at one point because I like his backups. I think could be a committee this year. But if he does Myles Gaskin stuff like he did last year, catches 40 yards from the backfield, I think he could be special. But Kyle Pitts, it's just, he's
intriguing right there, man. You've never seen, you probably won't ever see a tight end prospect like Kyle Pitts. I think that's what the Falcons were thinking too. That's why they took him 4th overall. So it'll be interesting. I mean, you're going to get a guy there that's got a lot of potential.
And they're moving him around. They're putting him out wide in the slot. So, matchup nightmare, so I don't know.
And you get 2 of the top 12, if you look at that way, 2 of the top 12 guys that have been dropped or rookies. So
one of your keeper strats is know your league offer trades. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so I think you just got to really know kind of what people's strategy is, who they've had before, where their weaknesses are, and then, it's just great to know like who they like, talk to them, and, it's good to chat a little bit and just get their opinion on guys. If you give you a negative opinion on someone, you might know, hey, well, that's not the right guy to offer it to. But really the best advice there is like, I knew that Kareem Hunt would possibly be available. And then there was also, I was working on a trade with Will, who was the league champ last year. He has a weird situation where he has 4 really good receivers, but not really any good quarterbacks. So we were trying to figure out something, and I made him a few offers to try to get him someone he could keep. So the more you know about like what potentially a team is going to try to have to do, the better position it puts you in. And I should mention, I have 3 second-round picks this year.
Ooh.
Okay, I don't know if you knew that either, but I can go through what happened there. I traded Joe Burrow in the offseason for a second-round pick. I kind of felt like I was ready to kind of get out of that situation and get something back. It was Jalen Hurts and a second-round pick for Burrow. Luckily, Hurts' value has gotten better and better through the offseason, so I feel really good about that trade. And then the other one, I just traded straight up Tannehill for a second-round pick. The reason that one worked for both of us, I felt like, was because I know he needed a second quarterback. He has Julio Jones, so I thought that would be an intriguing addition for him. And then at the time, I was thinking I had Cam Akers, so I was like, I can't even really keep Tannehill. So that was the thinking. If Akers would have gotten hurt, I would have just kept Tannehill. So that would have been the direction I went, because I love Tannehill, and I would have just done that. But obviously during the offseason, you're taking risks when you make trades, and but now I have 4 of the top 16 picks, with 3 picks in the second, and they're all in a row. 4, 5, and 6.
Nice.
The second round. So that
I'm
just
curious to see how that plays out.
So that's why I've mocked so much this year, to try to like see who's going to fall to me in that second round. So I've got a lot of different scenarios that are coming at me, but it shouldn't be any secret. I'm going to try to get one of each. Get 1 running back, 1 receiver, 1 tight end, 1 quarterback. Out of those 4 picks, just try to strengthen my team. Yep. So we'll just it could go in a lot of different ways. We'll kind of see how that all falls.
A couple of quick names to remember. Ty Johnson. I don't think Tevin Coleman's going to keep that job all year. Ty Johnson had some good runs last season. He had a really good game.
That's a sleeper to keeper. I like that.
Yeah.
He's a good runner, so yeah. I can see that.
He had a really good game against it was against the Raiders in Week 13 of last year. Just a guy who I would keep an eye on. Ramondre Stevenson. See, I've practiced.
Hey, you got it. Now you got it down.
Ramondre Stevenson. So yeah, another guy I would keep an eye on. I would definitely handcuff Damian Harris.
Cooper handcuff.
Ramondre Stevenson. What's that?
Cooper handcuff.
Keeper handcuff.
Keeper handcuff. There you go.
So I don't like the Lions this year. I don't love that offensive situation, but I also don't necessarily trust DeAndre Swift, guy we haven't really talked about, and there's a good reason for that. It's going to be a bad offense. Jamal Williams, however, is a guy that I might keep an eye on, and it's somebody that I would maybe throw a few fab bucks on or put a waiver claim in for if something were to happen to DeAndre Swift. And then there's also Baby Gronk, Freiermuth in Pittsburgh. Do you want to just go ahead and jump into some 2021 predictions?
So yeah, my 2021 predictions, these are really just kind of like stabs in the dark. Guys that obviously could get this, but there's no telling. But, I just think these are the guys that I would like to see make that jump and possibly could make that jump. So for my number one quarterback, this is fantasy-wise, number one quarterback fantasy-wise, 2021, I'm going to go with Josh Allen. Number one running back, I'm going to go with Antonio Gibson. That might be a little bit of a surprise, but I just feel like, if he gets the touches that he could get this year, he could do it. DK Metcalf, number one wide receiver. Number one tight end, Darren Waller. And then that last one is the sleeper to keeper. That's what we every year we give out like an award who we felt like was the guy that went from like kind of nobody to solid keeper, and I'm gonna be a homer and go with Jalen Hurts. Let's go, Jalen. This is gonna be the year he's gonna either prove all the haters wrong. Then the Eagles are gonna get beat by the Cowboys in the divisional round. So let's hear your 2021 predictions.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be a real homer, Billy, and I'm gonna say Dak for quarterback.
Hey, all right. I can't hate on that.
Homer. Oh man, you're dead to me.
Bust your balls, champ.
No, I do think Dak Prescott is going to rebound. I think he's eager to get out there and play, and he was on a record-setting pace last season. Of course, the injury was unfortunate. We'll see what he can do now that he's healthy. Best running back, I think, will be Derrick Henry. Wide receiver, I'm going to also go homer and say CeeDee Lamb. I just love the potential. I love the talent. That's my
awesome.
Boy, 88. Yeah. And then this one is probably not going to work out the way I want it to, but I'm going to say tight end Kyle Pitts, just because it'll be fun to see if he's playing. Tight end playing out of the slot, give me that all day.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm really excited about the 2021 season. We actually got some preseason. We got some real stats to play off of this year, see some situations shake out like we didn't get to last year. Hopefully COVID won't derail the season the way threatened to last year. Looking at you, Patriots. A lot of names, a lot of possibilities. We're going to be drafting in 2 of our leagues on the 28th. We'll get those results to you guys. Billy, got anything to say before we sign off?
I appreciate you having the time with me today, Matt. I always love talking football with you, man. I hope you have a great season. I hope you have a lot of fun at both drafts. We've got like 5 hours of drafting coming up on Saturday. It's going to be awesome. So look forward to seeing you then, man.
All right, I'll be drinking my pumpkin spice latte, and I'll be drafting my fantasy football players. Good luck to you guys. Have fun this season. Y'all have a great 2021.